Yahoo! Prof here, and we've got another one for you. You guys just saw the remnants of the video we just saw on the tactile turn 16-bit, based on that old classic SNES console. But we've got another one, which is technically speaking, it's already spoken for. So none of you can have it. No. It's also not mine. But I did get permission to crack it open for all you. He said it was cool because he's cool. What it is you've seen it before. Thanks to Everyday Kairos for featuring. I don't know if it was in the Everyday Kairos newsletter or in the Kairos Customs one, but they featured my video on the basik.002. And I actually did a very thoughtful response about it. And I seriously appreciate that. They confirmed a lot of things that I was saying about it as a product, and actually gave some additional insight into their, like, they make their own springs, that a lot of the stuff I was talking about with the machining was actually correct, and they went a little bit more into it. Like, I was thinking, oh, the bolt looks to be inspired by like a thumb screw design, stuff like that. They went into some of the downsides of using Delrin for the the actual bolt itself, or the bolt slider, which was interesting, because I had some of my own issues, and they went into other issues of making it with it. So they are looking into alternatives there. Well, we have the follow-up to that right here. So we're going to have to get this out of the way. However, if you want to see more on the 16-bit and its previous brother, the 8-bit, you are going to want to check out my previous video. And I can actually say that because at least new videos tend to come out relatively quickly and on time. Now, if it's one I shot 2 years ago, well, actually, we might be caught up on the 2 years ago thing. As for the 5 years ago, those are still, we're working newest to oldest. So if you guys are seeing videos and being like, huh, that video looks old, it is. I'm gonna need this guy. Love the side clip design. By far my favorite of the actions that Tactile Turn makes. Such a solid chunk, if you know what I mean. Let's take a peek. What's in here? Remember, not my pen. Here is the previous one for reference. Basic 01, 001, ZZ1, basic. Yeah, almost spelled basic wrong. I think when I wrote it out actually on the sticky note that's in the thumbnail of the other one, I did spell it wrong. Womp womp. But we gotta remember, these are cheap. 30 bucks. Or under, actually, $30. I believe they just said they sold out of the first batch of basic pens, the 001 version. One right there, yep, 29 bucks. That was 28 for some reason. $29. Remember, for context, a Kairos Customs on super duper sale is 40. Maybe under that. Like I want to say I got a single color retract with a clear anodized bottom for a coworker of Screws and Ours for like under 40 or 40 bucks. Maybe some grab bag stuff. I've showed that off before. That is a great way to get a pen. And if you got a buddy, you guys can both order one. Squeers and I have done this. And if you don't like the random colors it comes in, because they just, they just tumble them a lot to tumble out all the like additional blemishes and stuff. And then they just take tops and bottoms and just tuck them together. If you both order one, you can swap tops. Like if you're like, I think red and green is way too Christmas. What do you got? Oh, you've got orange and purple. Cool. Swap them around, you know. So, but that's basically if you wanted a Keras pen, which I recommend you should. You should have two nice milled pens. Then you can put whatever refills. Ideally, get them two different kinds of refills, unless you really like one specific refill and you've already determined that. Then just get one that's compatible with that. But otherwise, I've shown in the past how this guy ships with compatibility with the Pilot G2, but give it a refill, a little choppy chop action, and you can have other Euro 110 or Uniball, Pentel Energel, Zebra, Sakura, you name it. You can have a ton of different. Euro 110 is like the most common, and G2 is very close to it. The Pilot G2 style. So, and even if you just want to stick with Pilot G2 style refills, Pilot makes a bunch. If you want more of a Rollerball, not a gel pen, you can look at the V5 RT refill, and then you do the Hi-Tec-C click style that technically fits within that. I would still recommend you store your pen tip up, otherwise it's going to diarrhea itself. And then you have the Juice. That's what I would take if you have to have a G2 compatible refill. I would take the Juice refill, or the Juice Up. Like, and when I mean by G2 compatibles, I mean like dimensionally the exact same as a G2. All of those Pilot ones will fit in here, no problem, no modifications. Otherwise, any of the Euro 110 styles should fit in here with minimal modifications. So this is the basic 01. It's got some lumpy goodness on here. This is very similar to, I believe this is a Dragon Scale one. I believe I bought Squeers for Christmas. I got him a red one of these. That was limited edition. I forget, this is like Morning Fog or something like that. It was very well priced for end of the year as they were trying to move these. I didn't have the script style, so I picked it up. Would this be one I regularly grab? No, but it is a good example of that grip. And it does have an Ultim slider rather than like Delrin or other. It's got the clear Ultim one, which it's got a vibe. It's got a vibe. So I would argue that those two are pretty similar. The spacing of that, they seem to have that down with the spacing of the sort of like nubs and notches. There is one more on this one. Probably visually because it doesn't have this seam. So, just put that off to the side for now. Put this guy off to the side for now. Very simple. We've kind of gone over in the past before. And we'll take a look at this one to see if there are any changes. Still loving these guys. This is tactical keychains. This is the Tuck HD Smooth. If you notice, there's no additional milling out. This is probably my most optimum in this bright orange. Only way that they could make that an improvement is high-vis yellow, in my opinion. Tons of styles. They go crazy with the paint sometimes. If you guys use open box cutters, I use this for everything. Modifying pen refills, cutting boxes, cutting down things. Now, if you're going to break down a lot of cardboard or cut carpet, or go get yourself a full-size utility knife. I actually like the new ones coming out of Fiskars. I prefer the Fiskars blades. Fiskars blades do not get along with these because there's a hole in the middle. Otherwise, if you want a folding and extending utility blade, I like DeWalt's. DeWalt's are what I carried on when I was on on-site tech. in my just sort of to-go bag prior to being an on-site tech that I kind of used when bringing on to... Okay, so no packing. So they keep this as minimal as possible. You get padded envelope, no packing slip. You got your label, and you get your pen. And instead of having the sort of cardboard box with the foam, they go straight... Oh, it looks good. It looks good. I knew... Scrooge was like, you know, this one look like I really like how that one looks, but I mean, because what I did is I bought the subscription. We kind of split it. Okay. And he's like, that one looks so much nicer, but if you really want that one, I'll take this one. He's too nice of a friggin' guy. But he's said previously how he doesn't prefer having the bumps, which, you know, that was a couple months after I got him this one. I happen to imagine this was after using this guy and just kind of getting used to it and, you know, just preferring to have a smooth bodied pen, you know, because I hadn't heard that until within the last month or so, right? So I was like, and I was interested in getting this and making the first video on it. So I had no problem with that. He's like, this one, he thinks, but if you really want this one, you know, I'll take the original one or whatever the third one is, because we don't know what that one is yet. I'm like, no, this one, they said this one's going to be our straighter. I knew this was going to be in your, like, more in your wheelhouse. You should have the one that you're going to like the best. I mean, you know, you're only getting, I think he's picking up one out of the set. I might sell one of the other ones to a coworker if they're interested. But because $29 is very reasonable. And actually, if you buy if you subscribed for the season of them, they were even cheaper. I think it was $100 for 4, which includes free shipping too. So this is the exact same style thing that TI2 Design ships their stuff in. Also, Tactical Keychains, at least Brad, I think his own brand is now like OG Brad. He ships his pens. Oh, this is unanodized. I always forget that. Initially, when you use this, they feel super dry because there's this, like, they're not anodized. So, like, it's got to get this oxide coating. You getting your oils on it is actually gonna help. This does not feel dry like this. And I'm not gonna, like, use it up / mess it up too much because I want to see Scrooge's impression of that. But, like, if you ever put up a tent that uses aluminum poles and you touch it and they just feel like, that's how this feels initially. Not on the milled part, but on the... It gives me like a little bit of heebie-jeebie vibe, like, you know, nails on a chalkboard. Like I said, this doesn't feel that way anymore because I've just sit in a meeting and do this for a while. You'll you know, and flip it. This comes from, you're like, oh, you're not doing the spinning on the finger thing. With these, I don't know if I'd do that or risk it. But this sort of stuff I got quite used to due to playing drums. So you just kind of flicking around with the drumsticks while you're bored or waiting or, you know, showing off, etc. Just doing that sort of stuff. This doesn't give you that dry, and you can see the tone. It's less shiny, too. You guys can see that. That's just because of the buildup. Non-anodized aluminum in air builds an oxide layer. So you getting your oils over it will kind of protect that, kind of like anodizing would. But yeah, after a bit of rubbing with your hand, when I got this one, I'm pretty sure you saw a similar response to me. I'll be also carrying it in my pocket, you know, get a little dirty up. That it kind of, like, this does not feel anything like that right now. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but it's... So the grip, I thought from the preview that this was going to be almost like a tactile turn, where it would be the full length. For those wondering, if you heard a cat noise, that is because there's a cat. That is Paisley Marie, and she helps shoot these videos, whether I want to or not. Okay. Ooh. This one's cold. Interesting. You took my seat. Yeah. So we got two interesting, well, maybe not too interesting, but one interesting and one classic that I was talking about in the previous video. Ow, 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 ow. You're using your claws. Don't do that. Here is my original, whoa, tactile turn bolt. Just their titanium bolt. This is kind of when they came back after their glider and slider, which were mostly aluminum, I would say. Screws did buy me a stainless steel one as a gift one year. But this is kind of what I was more expecting. Full length milled like that with grips. On their preview of kind of showing off, that's kind of what it looked like to me. But nope. Not saying that's bad. And if you watch the previous video on the 16-bit, I described this. Tactile Turn actually had to, under warranty, because the lifetime warranty, they actually made me a new top cap. It used to be a little bit shorter and more rounded. That's because it actually comes out of different bar stock. And if you notice, it doesn't match the turn. The turn on here is a little bit coarser. That is because my clip broke off. And what holds the clip on these is the top. And that's because the top broke, apparently. So I had to make me a whole new top. How do I know that mine was actually repaired? Well, that looks funky. Also, I drilled out the tip to take Uniball refills, like the Euro 110, Euro 110 style, specifically the Uniball. That's why those walls on there are so thin. They didn't ship it that way. They're actually like, oh yeah, we didn't do that because we were worried about the tip like breaking or bending with it being that thin. I ran it for years, haven't had issues. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that because now I know you can just chop the ass end off the refill and it'll work. But hey, this also, look at how far that comes out in order to, because of the bolt mechanism. They also, just like Keras later on, changed their mechanism. Like there's much more movement on this one than, say, do I have a standard bolt up here? I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's much more vertical, like down and over, rather than this like swoop. I don't know if that's wholly noticeable, but here's a M-brate. Maybe that's a little bit better. It's a lot more down and over than swoop. So that did help because the travel is less going. I don't use this guy that much. That's the aluminum M-brate. I feel like the stock size on the aluminum from Tactile is thinner, and then once they mill it down with their grooves, kind of like Keras has done here, it ends up being a thinner pen than the titanium. I could get the calipers out and find out, but I can tell by hand it is. Versus a lot of their aluminum ones go for less milling because they're generally a cheaper pen, and they just mill out like some knurling to hold on to. The other one that I picked up to compare to these is my OG bar stock Render K. This is not anodized. This is, they literally, okay, I didn't grab another Render K from the same era, but here is my new Render K. It's supposed to taper down to the tip. Nope. Just a stick. It's just a stick. And this is, just raw aluminum. Does not have that same tent pole feel by any means. I did drill a little hole. I got that one pretty bang on. The Hi-Tec-C refills right much better with that in there. You can kind of see the difference between the raw and the milled. So just thought I'd bring that over because I was grabbing this guy and I was like, hey, I got an old school. Like we're talking, this is after the Kickstarter, I believe, but still like Keras, like just after, when they're selling on their website. I'm sure they could tell you exactly when they added this guy. but this is one I picked up later. After I got this raw bar stock one, I actually gave Squares my original Kickstarter, just clear anodized silver one. I forget what pens he was rocking at the time, and he didn't have something that took the Hi-Tec-C refill. And I'm like, dude, you gotta. Here's the OG Hi-Tec-C right there. Stick, not click. He's just right so much better. For convenience, though, if you're working in a customer service or a retail environment, gotta get a bolt or a side click or a basic, right? That's where you might want a different refill, because gel pens don't always write the best on receipts. That's where you might actually want to go to like a Uniball Jetstream, which is a roller. I would say it's a relatively smooth writing ballpoint. You could also go with a space pen refill with an adapter. I wonder if, because they make adapters for modals to fit the Parker refill in here, I wonder if that same adapter would work in here to make a Parker refill work in a basic. It's just a thought. I do have one. But if the kitten leaves my lap, I might be able to go and acquire one. Oh, yeah, you're getting the squitchies. So, I believe reading their email about when this came out, yeah, if you look, that's about the same height as these grips. What they were trying to invoke with how they went farther than they need to, that is for sure. If we were to compare that to like a tactile turn, this is kind of extended, in my opinion. I guess it'd be a similar height to that tactile turn knurling, right? If we compare it to the Carryology, though, which I would consider a more standard tactile turn knurling, it goes up quite a bit more. And the OG of knurling, this is not the side click. This is the new Bernoulli slim bolt. If you notice, it's much lower down. So what they're trying to emulate with that, based on their newsletter, is this line where it would separate, where it normally would come apart like that. So it's kind of like how electric cars still have grills, even though they don't need grills. People are used to seeing things a certain way, so they're emulating like a stylization or a need for it, if that makes sense. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think on. Do you think they went too far up with it, or do you think it gives balance to the pen by going up that little bit farther? Because I would say like that's where it would normally have been. You know, if we look at the modal, you know, it would have ended at the top of those scallops there. Yeah. And I don't know if the original one had this all the way up, or if there were less coarse. Like this is coarser than the tactile turn by far. But I would argue that the top upper part is about the same as the original basic. You can see some of the milling marks in there, but especially when they have this design lower down. Between these two, I think your average, like if you're trying to sell a pen to the average person, the basic 2, this guy here, is going to be much more appealing than this guy with like the nubbins. This looks like something foreign. Not like foreign as in like overseas foreign, but like not a pen object they would normally have on their desk. Maybe they're going for that. But a lot of the premium pens a lot of people initially buy go as little outside of their comfort zone as possible. That's what I'll say there. So I think in general this would appeal to more people than this sort of like bulbous sort of design here. I am a big proponent of smooth well, here, smooth knife. In general, the one thing I do like though, and they have this on their EDK. I know it's not easy to do knurling, but that is why they put this ridge here, is so you can pull it out of your pocket, right? Easily, you can have some place to grip it. What I would have liked to see, maybe as a design trait, would have been these knurls, like here up, like. I mean, it does have a certain amount of like asymmetry, you know, like a balance to it, because it's all knurled, all not knurled, right? Especially from this angle. But I always like something to yank it out of the pocket. I have the titanium tech or Keras Customs, one of everyone, like one bolt, retract, EDK. I don't know if they made other ones. I'll buy them if they do, because I like a standard tumbled titanium. If you're going cheap, this sort of unanodized aluminum, about as durable as it gets. You know, yeah, it's going to take nicks and stuff, but it's just going to take them because it's aluminum. You know, and it'll add wear. It'll add. I mean, heck, that's how I run even my really high-end, nice Cerakote pens. They get a little bit worn, stuff like that on it. But the less coating you have on it, the less you have to care. So something like this, you can toss around and use. Ooh, that one's. I feel it's tighter than. Yeah, maybe this one's just a little bit worn in already. The unanodized aluminum is a little softer. Do be aware on like the surface of it. I think Squares' unanodized modal. The track wears a little bit. It also gums up. Gums up. You get a little bit of. If you get a little damp, you'll get a little like stuff building up on the aluminum. You gotta clean it off. It usually turns black. I want to say white's from the air. The black is from the water rubbing on it. I don't remember what kind of reaction off the top of my head that would be. But you know, like I said, I think for the average person, this one's going to be nicer. I do like that balance of like all milled, all not milled. It has a unique vibe because they don't have anything else like this. From a utilitarian perspective, I might have liked to see like from this mounting point up, kind of like they did with this guy, right? Knurling, because then it would be way easier to grab when it's in your pocket. Just pull that out, much like the EDK has that. I don't know that I have an EDK over here at the moment. No, I do not. But they haven't made a modal with that either. I don't think I've seen a bolt. You know, here's my sunflower fluted bolt, but you can just pull on the bolt. You know, don't know that I've seen a modal with knurling up there either. But that's kind of why this is there. Also, the bolt kind of goes right in line with it. Kind of a cool idea. This like I said, I think has a more professional appeal, more professional provide. I think the average normal pen user out there might be more. This might be more appealing to them versus this kind of more bulbous one. I could also see like why, and after using this and some other ones more recently, I can see why. I think that these grooves and bumps are like a really good size. I also tend to back off on my pen a little bit to the second notch or even third notch, depending on what I'm doing. Squares is much more of a first notch kind of guy, from my experience watching him. So I don't know if that affects how these work, but he much prefers the smoother side you can get. Yeah, he wants some like he likes knurling, but like don't go hog wild apparently. This one that's a little bit smooth, a little bit more, less pronounced. But yeah, I can see how if you want to grab in between those, it's not the most comfortable. So I think this one harkened back to some designs they had recently done with the modal. This is something that's unique to the basic. I don't know that they've had a design like this, and you don't, because these turning millings are so big, you really don't notice the finer ones that are like unfinished. Because this looks smooth compared to that, if that helps. Whereas on this guy, they're kind of like more pronounced in like the stepping and stuff like that. Also, the tip on this one seems, and it may have the same stepping under the turn, right? But it's much less noticeable because there's texture all the way throughout it. Let's take a little sneaky peek at what's inside here. Remember, when you're doing the basic, hold your finger over this, then turn. And we have the same sort of bolt on here. Is that exactly the same? Okay, then you can release this, and because if you don't do that, it's gonna go flying. Yep. I would say this one's got a little bit longer nose on it, and I don't know if that was changed on purpose or that's just variance in the making of it. But the hard stop there and this threading not going all the way back, and this where this is slightly wider, that will stop itself from pulling itself into and then through the Delrin, which is a real issue because it's plastic and this is metal. The harder one's gonna win, or the stronger one, I should say, is gonna win. Got that back in there. Yeah, so on this guy, it just kind of looks that nose might be a hair longer. Maybe I'm losing my mind. This one's obviously much shinier though, because it's brand new. Looks like the same bolt, with this countersink on there, which also helps because that gives a flat. I think where some other people have had issues is that they thread this whole thing. So if it wants to keep pulling itself through, it will. The other thing is that if you were to thread it in this side, there is not a flat for it to stop on. So, I mean, actually, we could probably do it just as a demo. Maybe not. But because this is rounded, and then this is flat, without milling that flat in there, it wants to like make it flat or force itself in there. And what's going to happen is it's going to catch on the top and bottom here, like up down, whereas because that's higher up than the sides. And you're going to want to tighten it down there. That's why on this side where you're actually supposed to screw it in, they milled or drilled a flat in there so that not only is there a little bit to help you get it started with that little tip on there, you know, it only pulls it so far and then it's going to hit this and stop on the plastic rather than continually pulling it through. And this is going to win. I'm going to let you guys know that it will win and crack that right in half. The other thing is there's more meat around it, like on the left and right of this, because the actual tube is bigger than other ones I've dealt with, because they're purposely trying to take as little material off of this as they can from the bar stock that it comes from. Now you can see on this one, I don't remember looking on the previous one, but you can see the back side of the holes that are probably drilled and tapped for these Torx screws there. I do like that they switched to the dome top. They used to have Allen head ones that were like sort of like sharp and pointy. They weren't like nice and flat and rounded like this. They were kind of like taller Allen head screws that went, you know, like where the Allen had to go a bit deeper in them. I do, you know, it's just a nice smoother thing on your hand. I'd have to get an older EDK out. On my original EDK, I wouldn't actually mind swapping those out if I could get my hands on some of the hardware. You got Pilot G2 in there, and you're like, wait, you didn't have to break the pen in half? Yep, that's why I went into. That's what they're trying to make it look like, is that's the seam between the top and bottom bodies of the pen, because that's normally where the texture change would be on the pen. And then this is their custom spring. They went over like it is made for them by a provider, and I can see how you might need one. We've gone over that with the modal. I'm not going to do it all here, and I do have a transparent modal. This is the textured one that I think kind of, besides the Keras render, the new Render K that has the textured knurling here. I think both of these were test beds for what they could do with the basic. I may be wrong, but I didn't really see that until now, and then you see a whole line that kind of allows for it. This one's kind of hard with the hex. I need my hex sunflower bolt. Gotta get my hands on one of those. But because if you look at the tip, there is so little room from where the tip to where it comes out. I showed in a previous video like how the modal works, sort of things, and how much less room there is. So I can see why they might need like the springs pre-compressed and a bunch of other stuff to make it a shorter pen. That's what goes into being able to have this short check mark action on the modal, as well as why they can make the pen shorter. And the basic is not all that different from a modal in length. There. The modal is actually slightly longer. See? You match up tip to tip. There you go. And they manage that by actually simplifying. Yeah, because you don't need this notch up top there for the clip, because it goes right in the side. This material is thick enough to just screw right into. Other companies have run into trying to do that and then not having enough threads and it's stripping out. I know. So this is a little bit tricky. You gotta line it up with that hole there. Hold it down. I would even push in a little bit with the meat of your fingertip, and run it back till you feel a little click, because you're basically lining up the threads. Then run it forward with your fingies and release. This action very similar to the checkmark design on the modal, which is like, the one big difference here is that this is like an oval shaped for the bolt handle. So the shape, there's a little bit more of a swoop, like also because this is a little bit thicker of a material too. There's a little bit more of a swoop and then rather than a down and a check. We kind of went over that last time. Feels like there's a little bit more throw to it required, but still 5-inch pen is optimal. EDK was a 5-inch pen. The modal manages that with a much longer refill. Just over 5 inches. It's at 5 inches if you don't include the clip. It is just over if you do. The basic 2 is bang on 5 inches. So that's that for you there. And why do I talk of 5 inches being optimal? Well, I can put back some of my pens and grab you guys more pens. That's the OTT. For a first-time pen, the LTT is actually really good. It has some basic issues, in my opinion, though, that, I don't know, they didn't accept my feedback. I'm not saying it's bad because they didn't accept my feedback. I am just saying that they wouldn't, like, admit to it. Like, so... And I believe Keros did their research, and like they determined that 5 inches was kind of the best for an EDC pen. I think they didn't claim that the EDK was an EDC pen, but it's very much intended to be a little bit thicker than, you know, something like a modal. This is my titanium one. Here you can see the older style screws, which are your hex Allen style with these taller, and they catch on things. They really do, compared to the newer Torx ones. This guy, also for context, is 5 inches, or maybe a hair longer. But then don't forget, this whole part here is mechanism. God, this feels so light. It's titanium. But it takes a shorter refill. This takes the Schmidt Capless. I think you can also take Parker. But this is a shorter refill than even the Pilot G2. So, just something to keep in mind. But, Keros kind of found 5 inches as their optimal everyday carry. Here's what I was talking about, like knurling on the top too. Love that for ganking the pen out of your pocket, especially with these clips that are a little bit. These have some oomph to them, and these look very, very, very similar. So having a little grip up there wouldn't be too bad. I think they sold a smooth titanium EDK, and because I have the smoother track, smooth bolt, it would be nice to pick that up. Even though like the classic EDK has the knurling, and it just has these little steps. Like this is a nice running pen. I ran actually the one I got as a present from Squares with the aluminum olive top, copper bottom for years. Just that and the tactile turn he got me as my everyday at work, because these Schmidt Capless write very well on receipts. And was pleasantly happy. That's kind of where I'm saying, like, you want either, like, the modal can be adapted, and we'll see, maybe this guy can, to other types of refills, like a Schmidt Capless or a Parker or something like that. So you either want pens that can adapt into other ones that you might use, or I would pick up, like, one that can use Euro 110 style and one that can use Parker style. That way you can kind of cover both things. This guy is also, this is the pen type B. This is my original pen type B, and you see I use my stuff because this is brass. It's got a little nick out of it, probably from one of my titanium or stainless steel even pens, because this is stainless steel. Even I could have been futzing with it and had this just go whack, and it would have taken that out. I do have their newer titanium ones as well. Holy crap, do those feel nice. But this guy is 5 inches. So, like I said, it's a good length where you can kind of, like, it doesn't fall below this little ridge on my hand, but it's not sticking way up and being all waggly, The TI2 design pens, just shy of 5 inches. What happens when we put the cap on? Just over, but then it's kind of top heavy. I do agree that the original TI2 Tech Liner, a little bit long, but it was originally based off the one that used the Hi-Tec-C, which is longer refill. So just thought I'd have these for comparison as to why they went this route. They have a history of doing, like, aiming for that 5 inches for their everyday carry. I'm not saying, I mean, think about it. It's an everyday Keros, everyday basic. I would think, in my head, that means they're aiming at least somewhat towards everyday carry, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, sort of thing. There we go. I do have the Parker modal adapters. I don't know if they'll work or not. So in the modal Parker adapters, we have a Parker style refill, a black Ultim, and a standard Ultim cap, as well as a refill. We're going to use this guy. I know it's Ultim and it doesn't match that, but all the parts in here are already opened. The other ones have it on a little baggie. I got a fish out of the bottom. And I'm pretty sure the reason why this one is like this is if you're buying a modal, I don't know if it's even a price increase. But if you already have a G2 spring or a Keras spring, you can order it to come with, like a standard modal, to come with the Parker adapter. Then if you already have a spring that works for G2 style, you know, you can have it come as a Parker, and you know, then you have that if you want to use Parker. But oh, I almost did. I almost shot that across the room there. And then you can swap the G2 spring in a G2 or a Euro 110 style refill, and you have both. It's a kind of a trick that I did. So with this, we will see if this works. We're going to take this cap off. First off, the first thing we need to check is, does this tip, because these Parker tips are thicker, does this tip fit through this tip? Barely, just barely. And that is like that on the Model 2. 2 as in also. Not like I'm not leaking that there's a modal number 2, like version 2. Don't you worry. I know nothing about stuff like that. Oh, doesn't fit. It's too big. Fits this way. Doesn't fit the other way. I wonder if we use this guy though. Let me put this guy on top. Yeah. So I don't see why there's a Parker in there. So I don't see why, if you have the spring, you know, out of a Parker style refill, you couldn't yourself take like this piece that's protecting the tip, right? And cut that down to however long is needed to make a Parker refill fit in here. If you really want to run an everyday basic using a Parker refill, sadly though, you cannot go and just buy the modal Parker adapter because it no fit. That's the wrong way around, by the way. It no fit. You know, and how much more do you need lengthwise? That is a great question. I also wonder, could we go... No. It basically should be the ass end of that, is how much longer you should need. Or the difference in... Here. Difference in refill lengths. Oh, look at that. It's almost like that cap makes it the same length as that. So, otherwise I'm sure online, like I could probably measure that up. G2 refill is... Ugh. We're going to want like a ruler or something more accurate than this cheapy DeWalt thing here. But yeah, you know, say even if you buy a Parker refill and you get this little guy, that is a hard enough plastic that you could probably make the spacer out of it yourself. just for reference. The part that you're gonna have to track down though is the springly thing there. Maybe Keros will think of either selling some out of the box with Parker refills, or selling adapters. I did bring up to them, all I want, Keros, is, see, you're making this sort of convex doodly-doo there. Or sorry, concave. I can't English apparently. Take this end and just go shwook with like a blade or something, and put, see this on here? This has this notch to allow air in there. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that because you're using the G2. But if you're using other refills other than the G2, just a little shk on this end would do the same thing as having it on that refill right there. I don't need the air hole. I just need the slot. I may make it a little deeper, but, you know, that's all I need. And then that would make this, make other refills without modification run much nicer. You know, also, like I said, well, in this case, I don't know, like, if you guys want to make your basic 01 or 02 into a Parker, you're going to need the spring, and you're going to need to make yourself a spacer. Theoretically, if Keros wants to make a kit, they don't even need to do that. They just need to make the plunger longer. This bit, you know, this bit needs to be, it's got to get itself a little extension. I'm not going to shove that in there because this is not my pen. But, you know, it needs a little extension. Because knowing my luck, I would put that in there and I couldn't get it out. And then it could work with a Parker refill, pertaining you at the correct spring. So, you know, either selling something like that, I think going forward might be a viable thing. Because they're basically already doing that with the modal, and it would actually be even easier with the Everyday Keros basic line, because of, you don't need a spacer even, you just get a different bolt. There you go. Nope. If it doesn't feel right because you're threading plastic or metal into plastic, don't. You might not have it aligned exactly correct. If you want to get the hang of it, take it out, thread it back. There we go. Thread it in and out a couple of times here. Alright. Let's put that back in there. And back. There we go. And then this guy, because this is Squeers', not mine, go back in a little home. And sadly, I got to do some training. Oh, I put in the wrong end. Goes in the smaller end, like that. And we're gonna give it back to him. He wanted some pictures tonight, though, so I'm not going to actually put it back in there. And I am going to take a couple pictures for the thumbnail as well. And then, yeah, I got some training at, like, yeah, I mean, you guys are like, oh, gasp, you have to get up. Well, as somebody who normally works second shift, yes, sadly. Usually 2 hours plus minus, I got no problem adapting to. But, yeah. 9 or more. Rip. So, let me know what you guys think. Which of these two would you rather have? Would it be the basic one that's a little bit bulbous? Or would you go more for the basic 2 with its sort of like half turned, half not turned vibe? I do think that this definitely hides some of the, I don't want to call them shortcuts, cost savings in milling that are done on the basic line, because this much coarser thing just takes your eye completely off of, you know, like that other stuff might not be finished as well because it's just rough. Questions, comments, toss them down below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.